Hello, world. Welcome to the 258th climate change emergency protest here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It is November 1st, 2023, and next week will be number 259 climate change emergency protest. That'll be on November 10th or somewhere around there. So I'm standing in front of a giant oak tree that has fell over about a year ago, and it rotted. The bottom didn't hold together, or the top rotted, or whatever. The top looks fine right now, but underneath, the root system rotted. And this is symbolic for what's going on in the world right now, whether it's climate change or war or non-caring for those less fortunate than themselves. It's become a real problem, and people aren't recognizing it and willing to go along with the system. Just keep going along, vote for the same politicians. Oh, I know they're kind of this way or that. No, they're bad. We don't have anyone good right now. Especially in the United States. The countries of the world, though, are really suffering badly, and the fault lies in the people that are voting for them in certain situations. Otherwise, you get a right-wing situation develop, and they take over the government, and you can't do anything about it. So right now, the rot continues, such as this. There's a disparity, huge disparity between rich and those less fortunate, even the middle class and the lower class, economically speaking. The disparity is just enormous as to what's happening, and the homeless issue and things like that in the United States. Social services are looked upon as being a privilege, Social Security, welfare, things like that, rather than a basic life safety net as to what's going on. There's lack of hardening up for what's coming to you concerning climate change. There's no forward thinking. You look at all the politicians, local, state, federal, whatever. I'm trying to stay out of the wind. There's no forward thinking about climate change and how bad things are going and how bad things are going to get. No one asked me any questions locally at all. You'd think I'd get phone calls by now. People would ask questions as to where are we headed with this, what's going on. I could tell you, but they don't want to hear it. And I could tell you how to harden up your community too. They don't want to hear it. I have lots of ideas, as do other people that are aware of climate change and what's going to come. War is a rot. Thinking it will solve problems, it just creates animosity. You looking at this Israeli-Gaza situation, you're killing one person, but you're creating 10 others that have animosity now towards the Israelis. There's a difference between Zionism and Jewish faith. Just because you're a Jew doesn't mean you're a Zionist, meaning Zionism means the state of Israel. I got a real problem with the state of Israel, whether you're a Jew, a Christian living there or whatever. If you're backing them up right now and their genocide of what's happening to the Palestinians, you got your head screwed on wrong. Yeah, you were done wrong by Hamas and the 1,400 people that got killed or kidnapped or whatever happened, or 1,000. They actually called it a little high. Doesn't matter. That was wrong what they did, But on the other hand, killing a bunch of innocent people in the country where they came from is no answer either. That's called a war crime. If you're backing up the United States or Israel in this situation, and they can have at it and do whatever they want, they deserve to defend their freedom and everything like that, you're actually committing war crimes by staying with them in this situation. You look at Gaza, look at Al Jazeera News. Don't look at the news networks. Go to Al Jazeera News on YouTube. You'll be surprised how bad it is. It's horrendous as to what's happening. And they're not faking this stuff. So all fights end up on the ground. If you're watching a fist fight between two people, eventually the fight ends up on the ground. And that's what's going to happen with this war. And what do I mean by that? What ends up in dialogue? Otherwise, you're just going to continue this endless eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth thing, and it'll never end. It'll keep going and going and going. And what's this have to do with climate change? It has everything to do with climate change, because if you're messing with war, spending all your money on that, all your thoughts on that, and convincing the people that that's the big issue of the day, you're not going to be involved in climate change. And climate change is the biggest war combined of all wars there ever were combined. I mean, this is it. This is our extinction coming, and nobody seems to care, and no one seems to recognize. But keep having your little fist fight. I'm sure it'll work out well. You teach children all along. I'm standing sideways to keep out of the wind. You teach your children all along, don't get in fights with your neighbor, get along with Joey, share your toys and everything like that. And what happens when they become politicians in charge? They start fighting with each other. They start acting like worse than what you'd expect out of a child. If Biden and the Israelis and Hamas and everything were children, and Russia with Putin and the Ukraine situation, you'd send them all to their room. You'd sit them down if they're and send them to the principal if they were in class in high school or junior high. This is childish action. This is worse than childish action as to what's happening. It's murderous, and it's war crimes, what's going on all around. War crimes for everybody. Let's have at it. So right now, a symptom of rot is the Arctic sea ice shelf. Antarctic sea ice shelf, sorry. It's being rotted from down below, just like this tree. And eventually it'll collapse, and people wonder, what happened? Why is the sea level rising? What happened to, why is it getting so hot? It's because you're losing the ice, the albedo effect, and also obviously the sea level rise due to the glaciers from Antarctica sliding into the ocean then, and the Greenland glaciers melting. You have the Arctic ice that's melting away. That's a symptom of rot. Himalayas, the Alps, the Andes, Greenland, as I said, all glaciers melting away. Quickly or fast, doesn't matter. Himalayas actually support 2.5 billion people, I think it is, with fresh water. They're in big trouble. They don't know it yet. They're in big trouble once the Himalayas start going, and they will go the way we're headed right now. The rainforest, Brazil, big problems. It's actually gone past the tipping point, I believe, as far as temperature goes and what's been happening. As I said 2 weeks ago, I think it was, one of the tributaries of the Negro River is actually dry. This is inside the rainforest. So tributaries are going dry because it was so hot over the winter. Some places were over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That the tributaries are drying up, and what happens with that is it affects the rainforest. Rainforest has less water. It's a whole cycle. It's everything, and the more they cut down, the less humidity in the air, the less afternoon rain showers, things like that. It's little things affect everything else. Cut down that one tree, and that might just be the tipping point that ends it all. Sooner or later, it's going to be the straw that breaks a camel's back. So you got the rainforest in Brazil. You got coral reefs failing. Temperatures getting too hot. Oceans getting too acidic. You got the boreal forest permafrost. You got these fires in Canada, and yeah, it's a lot of carbon dioxide going in the atmosphere, and the trees are dying. Huge thing going on. But what also is that underneath you have the permafrost in a lot of these regions, and the permafrost now will be exposed to the sun or the air, and it'll start melting as well, or thawing, and then it'll shoot off methane as it thaws, and nitrous oxide and carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. It's not a good thing. You have the Gulf Stream dying. Eventually that will affect Europe, and it will affect the United States in that the United States will severely heat up because there's no getting rid of that extra heat. And then what happens with that? Well, you not only heat up, you end up with hurricanes, giant ones. The weather is worsening. That's a symptom of rot, what's going on. You have more heat, drought, floods. You have hurricanes that are going Category 6, the one in Acapulco, which nobody knows about because the USA News didn't cover it. Went from just a regular storm to a Category 5 in 24 hours. It jumped 115 miles an hour in wind speed in 24 hours. You have more tornadoes. The tornado situation, as long as you have the disparity between hot and cold and things coming down like this, and a warm, humid environment, you run the risk of having some severe tornadoes. The thing no one talks about is severe lightning. Some of these lightning bolts are getting pretty hard, severe, powerful lightning bolts. You have migration. That's a symptom of rot, what's going on. Either it's societal rot because they cannot live there anymore due to war or whatever, or climate change. The United States does not allow people in the United States from Central America if they left their area due to climate change. But if they say they were politically attacked, then yeah, they can come in the United States. But it's insanity at this point not to recognize climate change as a real migration issue. But our country is insane right now, and we've gone off the deep end. And unless people become informed and speak out and talk about things amongst themselves and get past those uncomfortable issues, we're in big trouble, and we're in big trouble right now, and we're headed towards a massive problem in the next election, no matter who is elected. At this point, the two front runners are not the people you want in charge. The people in Congress are not the people you want in charge. This war situation with Israel and saying, okay, go have at it, do whatever you want, commit all the war crimes you want, we'll look the other way. These supposedly peacenik senators in the Senate right now, 100 of them. That's what we have is 100 senators. Every one of them voted for Israel to go do whatever they want. Out of the 435 congressmen, the House of Representatives, 12 of them voted against it. All the rest voted in favor of Israel doing whatever they want. So we've lost our minds. We really have. 65% of the public wants a ceasefire in this issue, whether it's Palestinian or Israeli. They want this thing to stop and start having negotiations. 65%. And yet 2% of the representatives, supposedly representing the people, are the ones who said no. The other 98% said, sure, have at it. Go ahead, commit all the war crimes you want. It doesn't matter. So you're voting for these people. Keep in mind that when you're voting on the third, whatever, week in November and voting for your politicians, whether it's local, regional, or national, if they're not informed of what's going on about climate change or this war going on or issues with disparity or homeless issues and not talking about it, they are throwing total bullcaca at you right now. They don't understand what's going on. They don't want to know what's going on. They can just coast right into office like they've been all along, all these people. So with rot, you end up with no protection from your government. Oh, they'll go after the people that they think are mouthing off too much, and talking about things, and they shouldn't be. You end up with a more right-wing government as they'll start sliding. Our government has slid hugely to the right. There are absolutely no liberals in that government down there in Washington, D.C. right now. The best you can hope for is approaching the middle of the road, but they're not there either. Everyone's either right or hard right. They keep sliding to the right, sliding to the right. And this is an example of a society and a government in collapse. Okay, we're rotting from the bottom up and the top down right now in the United States. When you have a collapse, you also have gangs, roving gangs. Well, just because there's no real government protection for you, and it ends up being everyone for themselves. So right now, the carbon dioxide level is 419 parts per million. It'll probably get up to 425, 430, who knows, before the end of summer. Why does that matter? Well, 280 is the safe zone, not 350. So 280 is the safe zone for carbon dioxide parts per million. And we're at 419. We're a long ways from being safe, and even if you stop the carbon dioxide production right now, you'd end up with a situation that is horrendous. So Earth energy imbalance right now, we're due to the greenhouse effect, the carbon dioxide or the greenhouse gases, the energy coming in from the sun doesn't get a chance to make it out into space. Okay, so you end up with an imbalance. And what happens with an imbalance? You have a rising temperature. Okay, so this is what's going to happen this summer. It's going to approach dangerous levels for many people, and tens of thousands will die. There is to it. You can rack it up. That's what's going to happen. Bank on it. If there is a betting thing, this is what you want to bet on. And it's a terrible bet to make. Deaths this summer, and the deaths will occur from not only, it could be a super El Nino this summer, but I don't think it matters at this point. Just a regular El Nino effect of the temperatures rising. So the governments of the world, and especially here in the United States, are not leading. They'll say a couple words about climate change, or in the words of our leader, climate change. But that's as far as they go. They'll throw a couple energy programs out there, and then the other side will knock it back down, and they'll play this game of good cop, bad cop. In the end, they really don't care about climate change. They don't care about you and your survival of your children. Your children will not come out of this alive at the end. They're projecting issues by 2070 that the temperatures will rise up 3 degrees Celsius, 4 degrees Celsius, 5 degrees Celsius. They won't survive this. All these effects of climate change we've seen have only been like 0.2 of a degree or 1/10 of a degree increase. We're talking 3-degree increase, 4-degree increase, things like that. If you think they will survive that, then you're insane. Oh man, a deer just ran by. So the governments are not leading. U.S. Production of oil. Now listen to this, people. Okay, this is a fact. Okay, U.S. production of oil right now under Joe Biden is at an all-time high. He's broken Trump's record. He's broken Obama's record as far as that goes. Obama was horrendous about production of oil. Drill, baby, drill, lay down pipelines everywhere, gas, oil, everything. Then Trump comes along and produces even more oil. For example, right now we're producing 12.8 billion barrels a day, okay? The Saudi Arabians, they're the big oil producer. They're doing 10 billion barrels a day. 10 billion barrels a day. We're doing 12.8, almost 13 billion barrels a day. So the climate change disasters are Biden and Trump. If you vote for either of them, you really don't care about your kids. I'm giving you a fair warning right now. Your kids are not going to survive this. They won't get up to my age the way things are going. It's going to end horribly and disastrously. And I don't know what to tell you as to who to vote for, but no one in Congress is who you want to vote for right now, except for a guy named Whitehouse, who's from Connecticut, or Jay Inslee from Washington State, who's the governor of Washington State. Those are the only two politicians in the whole country that I know of that are worth anything concerning climate change and get what's happening and how dire the situation is. So, you got Biden and Trump, and Obama dropped more bombs than anyone else. Obama broke the record for most bombs dropped, and they ran out of bombs. They dropped 29,000 bombs in 1 year. Then Trump broke that record. And now if you consider Biden and his shipping of bombs to Israel and also to Ukraine, they're blowing that out of the water. We're going to run out of weapons, and eventually the Chinese will figure that out when we get really weak with that stuff. And you think your national security is being protected. It is not. I'm warning you, this is not, you're not being protected. If anything, we're being let open. It's like, spending all your money and throwing it this way and throwing it that way, and then the bank comes for the mortgage. You don't have anything. And the Chinese are like, go ahead, keep at it. You're gonna be suffering because we're creating enemies around the world, Middle East, everywhere else, and we're not using that funny thing called the State Department and doing negotiations. Well, what? Who cares? As long as we beat the crap out of other people, they'll love us eventually, right? That's how it goes. So war crimes and crimes against humanity are climate change and also war itself. They're hand in hand. Climate change is the biggest war crime and the crime against humanity you could ever imagine what's coming. You might not think it's big. You will eventually, and you probably won't think about it when things start happening to you, and you'll go like, I don't have time for that. I got to just survive. But the time to think about it is now, and the time to do something about it is now. Time to do your research is now. If you wonder what's going on with climate change, go down my webpage, go down Paul Beckwith on YouTube, go to Environmental Coffee House, Kevin Anderson. There's all sorts of people out there you can talk to or listen to. Rockström from Sweden. He's a big climate change guy. So these are war crimes, and the war crimes that are being committed. You might die a little bit of the time or die a lot of bit of the time, like in Gaza or with people blown down by hurricanes and things like that. But either way, the end game's the same. We're not going to survive this. I expect to see horrendous things coming up in 2024, 2025, and 2026. Things will be really, really bad, I expect. I could be off a couple of years. Doesn't matter. 5 years off, 10 years off. The effects are, we're going on the wrong trajectory. We used to be going at this kind of rate, and now things are going at that kind of rate for the Earth energy imbalance, and that's basically all that matters. You get an Earth energy imbalance, you're not going to survive it. We have literally gone vertical. People talk about the hockey stick effect, carbon dioxide and all, but now it's the cliff face. It's like some mountain climber in the Igor or whatever, or the K2, that you cannot climb that kind of a mountain and survive as a society. Yeah, a couple of people might be able to do it and survive, but all in all, the general effect is the same, and you end up falling. So don't let the rot happen. It is already occurring. Do something about it. Don't just blindly vote for your party in this upcoming election. Think about it. Write in other people than what your person is, whether it's local, state, regional, federal, whatever. Don't go along with the crowd. Try to be independent and think about things as to what's happening. I'll catch you next week. That'll be on November 10th.